Hello everyone, I hope you're well. My name is Sharon Barber and I'm the owner of Quantum Trance Healing, Bengal Rose Healing. I've come on today to tell you my story. I'm a ginger-haired girl with freckles. It's a book I wrote in 2022 and had something strange happen this week. It sat on my shelf for for those many years. I've not promoted it because I always thought who was going to want to know my story. And this week I created this healing space I'm in now in my house, and after a year of a lot of trauma through catalyst events around my husband, I came out of my workspace, so I had nowhere to teach or practice. And now a year on, through healing and shifting trauma, I'm ready again now to go out and start that process again. So I created this space with the guidance of my beautiful celestial guides. Now, part of my clearing out was sorting out all my books, because some of my books have had second editions or third or fourth or fifth. So I discarded the older ones. And then I came to this book. I had 4 or 5 on the shelf. And I thought, well, I'm going to take it off Esty. Nobody's interested. And this is me, my human side and my ego telling me to do this. And it was save space on the shelves. I keep 1 copy for reference for me. But I'll leave it on Amazon just in case. I'll leave it up there. It doesn't cost anything. So that was my thought process. There wasn't any guidance from my guides. But one thing we have to do is learn when it's us to making the decisions or our guides helping to guide us into the right decision. Anyway, I didn't hear any voice say no, don't do this. So I went through the process. And now I woke up this morning and all I could see was this book in my head. So I said to my guides, what's going on? And he said, we just wanted you to learn from this experience that this book is about you. It is your story, but also it's a story that will help many, many, many people. And I went, okay. And they also said to me, you have to be ready to let the world know your story, which you are now. So I was 60 when I did this. I'm now 65, be 66 this year. So I've waited that time span, or the universe has given me that time span. And what it is my guides brought to me something called deep core healing. And they said to us, we're going to teach you about deep core healing, but before you do that, you need to take your next transitional stage on Earth and deal with some of your past. Now, between the ages of, I think it was about 13 and 20, I kept a personal diary, and nearly every day, apart from some small chunks, I wrote in my diary how I felt, what I experienced, not large amounts, small, about 4 or 5 lines. And I had quite a hard childhood, not in the way of money or anything. There was always wealth around me. It was more the emotional lack of love side from parents, or that's what I thought. And then this went into my 20s, and later on in my life, my perspective of my childhood and early adulthood and estrangement from my adoptive parents created who I was and who I was living my life by. And it wasn't until I had my second child, I had a mental breakdown, suicidal, and they diagnosed severe postnatal depression, that they defined through counselling and what I chose to tell them, that I'd been mentally abused by my adopted mother. So that's how my life went. And then, so for another, I don't know, my maths isn't good, so I suppose another 20 odd more years, I use her as an excuse for my weaknesses, for the way I perhaps behave sometimes. Or, yes, well, I was mentally abused, so this has scarred me, and I'm dyslexic, I'm this, I'm that. And I just always put myself down into this rabbit hole of negativity and defining myself, wanting myself to be the victim. My guides knew this, I didn't know this. So after the stories in here, but I won't go into all of it, obviously. After moving over to Wales, my diaries have been in a box for years, and I saw them when I was in Bristol packing, and I was going to throw them away, and a voice said to me, "No, please keep these. You're going to need them one day." And I was working with spirit, and my guides were communicating with me telepathically, and I'd started channeling my book, so I knew it was them giving me this advice. I said, "Okay, I'm listening." I'll put them in another box and packed them all up, and then a few years in living here, I found them again, and I got them out of the box and put them in a drawer. Again, I couldn't look at them, I couldn't read them. I didn't want to revisit that past, which I thought had hurt me. So when I turned 60, more in that 60th year, they bought the Deep Core Healing, as I've said, and they said, before we channel the Deep Core Healing book, we want you to read your diaries, to write up your diaries, and we want you, from your perspective of life now, to account in that writing. So you read a bit and then you put what your thoughts are now in the diary, in a book. So it's like a massive diary, 7 years diary, and how your perspective has changed and how you feel now when you read it. Now, when I read it, I was quite shocked because there was odd things in there I'd forgotten about or put away because I didn't want to remember it anymore. And yeah, my feelings in the book, I express them through every time something really hit me, I'd then write. And then, so this is what this book is. It's like a self-reflection process of my story on a spiritual basis of how our perspective can completely knock out our true path. I had to live that life. So I just walked the canal with my dog and I said to them, "Okay, you want me to do a video? Do you want me to tell my story?" And they said, "Yes, it's now time for your story to go on and, and reflect and let other people understand the journey of our lives." So I had to live those 60 years to go through the processes I'd chosen here to come to learn for my ascension, spiritual learning, to write this book at that stage in my life. So this was a healing journey for me, this book, and this helped me tell my story to that point in time. Now, my guide said to me this morning when I was walking my dog, the funny thing is, Sharon, is that if you now read those diaries again now, or read this book again, your perspective has changed so much in 4 or 5 years that you will have another more highly ascended take on what has happened and add to it. And I thought, well, they're not wanting me to do that because the book's pretty thick already. But they wanted me to understand that my perspective has ascended again, and that once you do deep core, because this is basically deep core healing. The deep core healing is that when I'll just put the book down a minute, this is getting heavy. The deep core healing is a way of learning to do layers of healing, take away the layers that have been part of us from the first breath of life. And we collect all of our information, all of our energy we experience, emotion, hate, love, happiness, laughter, everything is collected into our subconscious and our ethereal essence, which is linked with the quantum domain's creative intelligence, which is an entity in itself of a being. And we have this connection from day one, and we collect everything that happens, so that it builds in layers. And as we move through our life, so as I moved through my life and I was guided to do Reiki 1 and 2 healing, I had to shift some of the trauma around my mother and my adopted mother in my Reiki 1, and in my Reiki 2 I'd learnt so much that I was then giving out to other people, because I'd shifted something to allow this beautiful energy to come in to heal, for the energy of my guides, the universe, to help heal other people. So slowly through my spiritual journey, I have been healing and progressing, healing, progressing, healing, progressing. And I'm still doing it now. And this is what, deep core healing is. It's learning to understand this, learning how to take each layer away at a time, then giving yourself time to readjust, balance and change. And then a next phase will come when you can shift something else. It might be, as you move through your earth life, there's only so much you need to shift and learn from, and the rest doesn't need to move, and it just moves along with you until you die. And other people need to shift a lot, depending on your soul plan and what is required of you in your choice to come here and what you chose to learn and help other people. So that book was my journey, it was my story, and it was also a massive, massive layer of healing for me over many, many years. And what it did is it changed my perspective and my outlook. And obviously that's all in the book. I won't tell you what I said and how I felt. But I just now realise, after going through another year of recovering from quite a lot of catalyst trauma, really suffering from depression and other things that have come off the back of the trauma that happened around my husband, and helping him and him having to deal with all of this as well, that I coped with that better now because I had this higher perspective understanding through the book I'd written. I didn't realise that at the time because I was so involved, but it was in there in me. So I dealt with it. I dealt with 60 years here. I then had to deal with another 4 or 5 years again this last few months. And then about a week and a half ago now, we went through the anniversary of the accident, the anniversary of the pulmonary embolism when he died 3 times. We went through all of that. We had some psychic, we saw a lady who's the psychic team in the ICU, and we had to go there and revisit all that, and that was emotional. And it's like all of that escalated, brought a lot to the forefront for us in the space of about 2 or 3 days. And then I am very lucky to facilitate an advanced trance group on Thursdays, and one of the sitters is an amazing guide, and they brought through light language and stuff, the beautiful healing, and we had a healing session. And the next day I woke up and felt like a massive shift had happened, and it had basically, and hence the healing room and everything else. And this is why it's now time to tell my story a bit and to help other people with it, because the book is healing. So when you tell your story and you put it out there, it means an awful lot to you. And then you think, well, would anybody else want to read my story? Why would they want to know about me? I'm not famous. No, I'm perhaps well known in some spiritual circles for what I do, but I'm not famous worldwide. And famous people write their stories because they've had trauma, they've had catalyst events, they've learnt spiritually, even though they perhaps don't always realise it, to improve themselves and help other people. And this story inspires people. So when you're famous and you tell these type of stories of your life, that was in your soul plan. It was in your soul plan to do that, to be that inspirer. But again, you've had to go through those lessons to be that teacher, be that inspirer. And I was on the same journey. So, yeah, one of the things you can do is journal, or keep a diary. Write down how you feel every day. Write down your experiences. Think of your perspective. Think of, this happened to me today, or this happened to me 20 years ago. How am I dealing with it today? How has it affected me? So that's the journaling side. A daily diary is a little bit different. A diary is more to do with your day-to-day events. Journaling helps deep core healing. And so I've actually, just looking on my shelves. Yes, I've got a deep core healing book, and I've got a deep core healing workbook, which is very good if you wish to. I'll put the links in the YouTube text underneath for you. Yeah, the book tells you about the deep core healing. The The deep core healing is linked to 5 meditations, which are in my SD shop, so I'll put those in as well. And the workbook is something you can do in your own time and work through it to help you understand and start to think about the process of who you are, what's holding you back, how you can change things. It's just a little triggers for you. It's nothing, and you can do it on your own without support of anybody. It's quite safe. Your guides will be with you, and it'll just make you think a little bit. How can I change? How can I heal? What can I do? How, because to be quite honest, it's all down to us. Our guides are there to guide us. We are the ones that need to make the change. We need to change who we are. We need to tell our stories. How did we get here? The more we talk about who we are, what we think we are, is it the truth? Who are we truly? Do we ever really know that answer until we go over? Now, I teach from my perspective of what I've learnt. I teach my guides words and wisdom, which are truth, from their perspective. So I guess when you pass over in your ethereal essence, we go back to the quantum energy, wherever we came from, or various sources we come from. The truth, again, from that perspective, will be told to us. So do we ever fully know the truth? I'd say probably not. But as we ascend through millennia of time, because that's how we've existed, in the understanding that Earth is on a linear timeline, but the ethereal essences or the higher celestial physical beings are not running in our time frame. They're running in a more of a highly ascended way of existing, telepathically knowing where they've got to be. There's more of a knowing, okay, I've got to be down at Sharon's workshop to help her 9 o'clock Earth time. But it's just, nobody's come to tell them that. They haven't got a written diary. They haven't got it written on a fridge to remind them. It's just a knowing in their heads. There's, time for me to go now. They don't exist in our time frame, if that makes sense. So, if this is on Amazon. I think I'll put it back on my SD shop now as well, now that my guides have made me realise that my story is worth knowing, it is worth hearing. And, so I wrote on the back here, I feel like a life is like a kaleidoscope. Life is created from patterns of events that can fit perfectly together, creating a beautiful pattern of memories. The kaleidoscope can also fragment into different patterns, creating new perceptions of reality that can break up that perfect pattern of harmony. As you look down through the light in the tunnel at the kaleidoscope patterns, you will hold on to the fragments of what you saw. These fragments of reality are what will shape your future and will influence your perception of life. So, yeah, don't be afraid to tell your story. The other thing that I quite often happen when I write, and this is for the writers out there that are telling their stories or writing a book guided by their guides or whatever, is that when you write a book, you put your soul into it, you put everything into it. It consumes you, it becomes part of you. And suddenly you put it out there and then it's there and nothing really happens. Perhaps no one buys it, or you feel it's just like, it can be a bit of a downer, put it that way. I've always found that every book I've released, I felt a little bit down for a few days afterwards. And it seems to be a natural thing. But then you must trust that that book is going to go to who needs to see it at whatever time is going to help their life. So it's part of the journey of writing. And even if you sell one copy and it changes somebody's life, that is, my guide said to me, excuse me, a long time ago when I started writing with them, the channeling, I would never be a millionaire through my books, but my books will be directed to those who need it at the right time in their ascension path. So that's how I've always understood it and always seen it. So it would be nice to be a millionaire and I could help a lot of people with that money. Or perhaps one day, who knows. If it's on my soul plan, it will happen. I just got to trust, haven't I? So trust your journey, trust your story. Don't be afraid to share your story, your feelings. Even if you do it through pictures, poems, little flashes of stuff on social media of how you feel this day, or say how to help other people feel more happy, jolly. Share your grief, share your happiness. It's all there. It's all there to help other people. So I'll leave that with you. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll put the links in the text below. And yeah, tell your story, guys. Love you. Bye.